welcome to Educationally Speaking. My name is Sarah Davis, and I'm a communications specialist with Oakland Schools and the host of this podcast. The goal of Educationally Speaking is to focus on important topics related to education that affect students, parents, teachers, and administrators. Imagine trying to learn when your stomach is speaking louder than your teacher. It is impossible. Research shows that the simple act of eating school breakfast can dramatically change a child's school learning experience. Children who eat school breakfast are more likely to reach higher levels of achievement in reading and math and have better concentration and memory, among other advantages. National School Breakfast Week is March 8th through 12th, and it serves as a reminder that a healthy breakfast helps ensure students' academic well-being. It also gives our schools a chance to highlight what school lunch programs they have, as well as pay homage to those who help make those programs a success. Here to talk with us about National School Breakfast Week and many other tasty tidbits related to school breakfast are Lori Adkins, Oakland Schools Child Nutrition Consultant, and also the Vice President of the School Nutrition Association, Stephanie Willingham, Assistant Director for the Office of Health and Nutrition Services for the Michigan Department of Education, Bryan VanDorn, Director of Basic Needs Initiatives for United Way for Southeastern Michigan, and Katie McConkie, Director of Food Services for Lamphere Schools. This is quite a lineup of guests for this show, and I'm thrilled to have each and every one of you on here. So thank you for joining me.
You're welcome, Sarah. It's great to be here.
So Lori, we'll start with you. Can you explain to us what National School Breakfast Week is and why it's important for us to celebrate it?
Well, National School Breakfast Week is celebrated every year the first full week of March across the United States. It's a time for school districts to increase awareness about the importance of eating breakfast. And during National School Breakfast Week, schools celebrate by decorating their cafeteria and service areas. Sometimes staff will dress up, they try new recipes, and they offer new breakfast menu items for kids to try. And one new recipe that we're promoting this year is called breakfast sushi. This is a banana wrapped in a whole grain tortilla spread with soy butter and sprinkled with granola. And then it's rolled up and cut into bite-sized sushi pieces. Then this is served with a half a cup of fruit and a carton of milk for a complete breakfast. So just as important as the menu is the service model used for getting breakfast to kids. This is equally important. We know that the more convenient breakfast is, the more likely kids will participate and consume a healthy morning meal at school. So for example, breakfast served in the classroom at elementary building and breakfast served at hallway kiosks and grab-and-go options at high schools and middle schools, those are both service models that really help to improve access and convenience, which leads to higher student participation and more students getting fueled up ready to learn.
Okay, and nutrition experts have long given guidance to adults on the importance of eating a healthy breakfast before beginning the day, but it's also extremely important for children to do so. Can you talk a little bit about why that is?
Well, Sarah, the word breakfast literally means to break fast, which means to stop fasting and to start eating. So if kids skip breakfast, that means they've been fasting or they haven't eaten since the night before, which for some kids, that could amount to 18 hours or more with no food. So hunger makes things difficult for both kids and adults alike. We know that hunger and learning are mutually exclusive, which means they both can't happen at the same time. Hunger gets in the way of learning every time. So that's why school breakfast programs at school are so important, especially during these uncertain times, and busy weekday mornings make it even more of a challenge for a lot of our families to find time for a healthy breakfast. And then some kids don't feel hungry when they first get up at school, but then later on in the day, those hunger pangs set in. So during National School Breakfast Week, it's a great time to try school breakfast if you haven't done so before. Also know that when breakfast is made accessible and convenient to kids at school, those hungry kids are going to eat. And research has shown that when hunger is eliminated, students are able to focus and concentrate and learn better in the classroom. And breakfast provides that fuel for learning, as well as it really levels the playing field for equity for all students to work to their potential. Breakfast creates fairness that provide students with the fuel they need to start the day, whether in the classroom at school or the classroom at home.
Absolutely, and equity is actually something we're going to talk about a little bit later in this podcast. So thank you for that information, Lori. Stephanie, the state's summer food service program was just expanded through June 30th, which is great news for our students. Can you explain this program and what it means for our local school districts?
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on today, Sarah. So the United States Department of Agriculture provided some waivers that gave states the flexibility to allow school districts to provide free meals to all children 18 and under. This includes meals during weekdays and weekends, school breaks, and holidays. Many of these waivers were granted at the beginning of the pandemic, and like you mentioned, have been extended through June 30th. It means that school districts can provide nutritious meals free to all students, no matter what mode of learning they are in. Michigan has over 1.4 million students, and every one of them can get free meals right now. There are no eligibility requirements associated with this, no applications to fill out, no income requirements. It literally means all children can take advantage of these free meals. If districts have school buildings with mixed modes of learning or are completely remote, parents and guardians are able to pick up breakfasts and lunches, and most often they can pick up multiple days of meals for their children at one time. In addition, if kids are physically in school buildings, so they're face-to-face learning, students can grab a breakfast to start their day and a lunch to refuel for the afternoon. There is a lot of flexibility given to food service on how to provide these meals. And again, like I can't say it enough, the best part of all of this is that the meals are free to all students.
Yeah, this truly is an amazing program that's going on right now. What other food-related programs is the Michigan Department of Education involved in?
So we have quite a few different food programs. For today, I'll concentrate on a temporary program that is being rolled out soon, and 3 permanent programs that are geared toward children that many children across the state can participate in right now. Our most recent program is called Pandemic EBT. The Michigan Department of Health and Human Services was approved to provide pandemic EBT benefits for the current school year. This is a cash benefit put on an EBT card that is to be used for purchasing food. This program is available to a specific group of students that are learning remotely and eligible for free and reduced price meals. This is one more way for us to reach children that may have barriers picking up meals when they are not in school. Right now, the majority of school districts are providing meals through the Summer Food Service Program, which is known as Meet Up and Eat Up in Michigan. This program typically provides meals during the summer months when school is out, and will continue to do so this summer 2021. We also have the Child and Adult Care Food Program that provides meals and snacks to eligible children in child care centers and daycare homes. It also provides snacks and suppers to children in after-school programs. So right now, because of these programs, there are children across the state that have access to free breakfast, lunch, snack, and supper on a daily basis. And lastly, I think most people are familiar with the traditional national school lunch and breakfast programs. So prior to the pandemic, we were working at the Michigan Department of Education. We were working closely with our partners at No Kid Hungry and United Way for Southeastern Michigan on increasing access to and participation in the school breakfast program. Michigan did show an increase of 4.2% in the number of free and reduced students eating breakfast last school year compared to the 18-19 school year. Our next challenge is how to keep that momentum going. With schools having different modes of delivery, that is helping us with that. Our continued partner collaboration and the Better with Breakfast campaign, in combination with the different ways breakfast is being delivered to kids in schools right now, are really moving us in the direction of more kids having increased access to breakfast.
All right, excellent. And speaking of the Better with Breakfast program, that's been hugely successful and is something that Oakland Schools is involved with, Oakland County and United Way for Southeastern Michigan. Bryan, can you provide us with an update on how Better with Breakfast is doing?
Absolutely, Sarah, and thanks for having me. 3 years ago, United Way partnered with Oakland Schools and the Oakland County Board of Commissioners and we set off with a goal to close the gap between students that receive lunch at school and those that receive breakfast. Statewide, on average, about 60% of free and reduced price lunch eaters were also receiving breakfast, and our goal is to bring that figure to at least 70%. In Oakland County, that figure at the time was only 47%. So we targeted nearly 70 school buildings. We offered technical assistance, equipment support. We had a large public relations press release and rollout. And while the pandemic put the brakes on meals being served at school, we have been able to implement this initiative in 40 buildings. Prior to the pandemic, in those 40 buildings, average participation was up by 75%. This equates to an additional 2,500 Oakland County students accessing breakfast each school day. I mentioned that before we began this work, Oakland County was serving about 47% of free and reduced price lunch eaters. We are now serving nearly 65%, 5 points above the statewide average of 60%. So overall, this pilot has demonstrated that when you make school breakfast more accessible and available to all students, participation goes up. It's also demonstrating that when local governments, school districts, and nonprofits work together toward a common goal, we can have a huge impact. We still have a ways to go, and we now have a project with the Michigan Health Endowment Fund to further evaluate the success of this initiative as we continue to explore efforts to expand.
Excellent, and good luck with that. Bryan, you also recently mentioned that the Michigan Poverty Task Force issued 35 recommendations to the governor and the public, 3 of which pertain specifically to school breakfast and school meals. What are these 3 recommendations, and why are they important right now?
Many of these initiatives are things that we've been fighting for collectively for years as ways to improve participation and make sure that more kids are being served with these available programs. One of the recommendations from the Michigan Poverty Task Force recommends that all schools, regardless of free and reduced percentage, offer breakfast. Currently in Michigan, only schools that are above 20% free and reduced must offer breakfast. Another one recommends that all schools above 60% free and reduced offer alternative breakfast models like breakfast in the classroom or grab-and-go breakfast carts. Currently, there's no such requirement in place, but other states have had successful participation increases with that policy. Finally, the Michigan Poverty Task Force recommends eliminating the reduced price category in school meals, effectively covering the cost to expand the reach of free meals to more students. Efforts like these will go a long way in supporting more children and families in our state.
Thank you, Bryan. We wish you success with what you and the United Way continue to do for local students. Katie, you have been food service director with Lamphere Schools for 24 years. I'm sure you've seen a lot in your time in this position. How has Lamphere made breakfast a priority for its students?
Sure. Thanks, Sarah, for having me today as well. We know how important breakfast is for students. It gets students nourished and ready to learn. We make breakfast a priority by offering free breakfast every day to every student, including those students who have decided to learn virtually. Lamphere Schools started participating in the Better with Breakfast program back in the fall of 2018. The impact of the breakfast on our students has been incredible. Before starting Better with Breakfast, we served almost 70,000 breakfast meals a year. The first year, teaming up with United Way, Oakland Schools, and Oakland County, we served almost 154,000 breakfast meals that year. This means more kids are eating breakfast and are ready to learn each morning. We are now in our second year and have already surpassed that number, and we still have 4 more months of school left. I can't thank United Way, Oakland Schools, and Oakland County enough for helping us achieve this. When we surveyed our parents and teachers about our Better with Breakfast program last year, we received several positive responses. In fact, one mom told me that the mornings are so much easier because she doesn't have to think about what is for breakfast, because she knows Lamphere will provide the nutritious breakfast for her children. And because of that, she said her children can sleep a little longer. Also, the school staff response has been extremely positive. With a good breakfast, they have noticed students are much more attentive and engaged during class. Our breakfast program has grown thanks to Better with Breakfast.
Thanks, Katie. Those numbers that you mentioned are amazing, from, I think you said 70,000, which is amazing in and of itself, to 150,000 and growing. It's really a testament to the program and how much it's needed. As with everything, the pandemic has brought unique circumstances to local districts when it comes to trying to ensure students are fed. What are some tactics that Lamphere has used this past school year to help overcome these new obstacles?
Sure. We found out on a Friday afternoon that school was suspended to COVID. On that following Monday, we were feeding students curbside. We learned a lot in a short amount of time. On that Monday, we had our food service staff, our superintendent, business manager, human resource director, a few board members, and some teachers getting meals ready for students to pick up on curbside. That's the way it is here at Lamphere. Breakfast and lunch are still available to every student. Now it just depends on where they're learning. If they're learning in person, then we feed them at school. If they're learning from home, then we have meals available curbside pickup. It's all about meeting the needs of the kids to ensure they are fueled up for learning. Staying in contact with families is important. We have increased our social media presence to inform our school families of pickup dates and times. During the past year, we have had to adapt to so many changes to keep our students safe and our quality of food at high levels. It's been a challenging year, and we know our program is important to kids and families, so that's why we do what we do.
Amazing work there, Katie, and huge kudos, to you and all of the Lamphere school community and really all of our local districts, and how they had to step up, like you said, on a dime like that and go from in-person learning, on a Friday to then worrying about how to provide food to students the following week. I think it's also fair to say that the pandemic has greatly exposed equity problems in terms of overall food access for kids and families. Bryan, why don't you speak to that issue first from United Way's point of view?
Sure. Those of us that are speaking here today have long made the connection between the availability and consistency of school meals and other child nutrition programs to protecting against child food insecurity. The pandemic has elevated the focus and importance of these critical programs as a part of the larger food safety net. As families have grappled with the loss of income or the reduction in hours, it's forced many families to make some tough choices. Families that have relied on school meals as a core support were able to continue getting those meals during the pandemic, but it hasn't been enough. And now some of those same families are standing in growing pantry and food distribution lines. At United Way, we'll continue to support the systems and the organizations that are working to ensure that families don't have to choose between keeping the lights on and putting food on the table.
Absolutely. And Stephanie, from the state's perspective.
I do agree with everything Bryan had just said. Right now in the federal child nutrition programs, even though meals are free, we have to remind ourselves that they weren't free prior to the pandemic. And so that is telling, right? It's telling that we need these free meals for kids, and hopefully we would be able to continue to do this even after the pandemic is over. But with that being said, it is still hard for families and children to actually get some of this food. If kids aren't in school and parents would like to get meals, they have to travel to pick up meals. So transportation is still a barrier. It can definitely be a barrier for rural households where sites can be a good distance away. Schools have funding issues, or they have lack of staff or aren't able to hire people. And not many school districts are able to deliver meals to households or use bus routes to get meals to families, which would also help get these nutritious meals to kids. And timing is a factor. So if the pickup time for picking up meals is a small window or happens to be at a time when families are working or it's just not convenient or they don't have transportation at that moment, they potentially won't be able to pick up these meals. And so all of these things, even though we have free meals, are barriers to access and participation of these programs. And not all kids have access to all of the programs that I talked about earlier. Some programs are only run in certain parts of cities because they're more densely populated and it's easier for people to get to. And not all school districts can run every program that I talked about earlier. So those are all equity issues that we have with some of our child nutrition programs.
Right, so great gains have been made, but there's still a lot to focus on.
Absolutely.
Lori, what are the goals of Oakland Schools and the School Nutrition Association related to equity in food service?
Well, Sarah, equity to me means meeting people where they are to get them what they need. So the Child Nutrition Department at Oakland Schools is dedicated to working with all stakeholder groups, United Way, MDE, Oakland County, and our local school districts to ensure that our school programs have the best resources, training, and support that they need to provide healthy meals to kids. And this will ensure that every hungry child gets the opportunity to eat breakfast before the school day begins. That's one of my department's overarching goals. Now, the vision of the School Nutrition Association is that every student has access to nutritious meals at schools, ensuring their optimal health and well-being. And SNA's mission is to empower and support school nutrition professionals in advancing the accessibility, quality, and integrity of our school meal programs. And SNA does this through their advocacy work and their outstanding professional development programs for their over 50,000 members.
All right, thank you for that information. Lastly, do any of you have some resources that you would like to share with our audience?
For anyone in need of food or other resources, we recommend that people call 211. 24 hours a day, get a live operator to assist with any number of different resources that you may be in need of.
There are also many open sites across the state to get free food for children. To find a site closest to you, you can go to www.michigan.gov/meetupeatup. In addition, people can also text food or comida to 877-877, and they will also be able to find a site closest to them where they can get free meals.
So, Sarah, we are also an open site, so anyone can go to our website at www.lamphereschools.org and get the dates and times that we are serving.
A county listing of all school food programs that include dates, times, and locations where food is distributed in each district is available on the Oakland Schools website at oakland.k12.mi.us. We've also posted on the website some of our popular National School Breakfast Week recipes for kids to try at home. And for more information on the National School Breakfast Week and National School Breakfast Program, parents can visit the SNA webpage at schoolnutrition.org.
Okay, great. And all of that will be in our show notes. You each play such an important role in ensuring students are fed and ready to learn. So thank you to each of you for all you do for our students and for being on the show today.
Sarah, thank you so much for having us. It was great to be on the show.
No problem. This podcast was brought to you by Oakland Schools Intermediate School District's Communication Services and is produced by Media Production and Distance Learning Manager Mark Hansen. Oakland Schools is a regional service agency in Oakland County, Michigan that offers support services to school personnel which are better delivered regionally and provide cost, size, and quality advantages to those we serve. I have been your host for this podcast, Sarah Davis, and you can find this and future episodes of Educationally Speaking on our Oakland Schools website at oakland.k12.mi.us/podcast, Anchor FM, and 89.5 WAHS. We hope you will join us for our next episode where we will continue to bring you topics that affect every student every day.